Hello friends, I am going to share the mechanical engineering interview questions and their answers. 1. Manufacturing engineering. 2. Automobile engineering. 3. Strength of materials. 4. Machine design. 5. Fluid mechanics. 6. Thermodynamics and 7. Material science. I hope the video will be helpful for preparing interview or exam preparation. Please share your comments and subscribe our YouTube channel. Our golden manufacturing engineering interview questions. Question 1. What is difference between production engineering and industrial engineering? Production engineering. It is a branch of engineering which is a combination of manufacturing technology with management service. Industrial engineering. It is a branch of engineering dealing with the optimization of complex processes such as improvement, development, implementation of integrated systems. Question 2. What is difference between jigs and fixture? Jigs. A device that does both functions such as holding the work and guiding a tool is called jigs. Types: drill jigs and boring jigs. Fixtures. It is a production tool that holds, locates and support the work securely so that required machining operations can be performed. Types: milling fixture, profile fixture. Question 3. How did you reduce the downtime and increase the production? I reduced downtime and increased the production by using following steps. By providing the maintenance activity on time if the problem arise on any machine. By providing sufficient raw materials/tools/bits on machine. I made the best plant layout for machines and arranging them in line according to the next process. And, by making time study report of all components those are being manufactured on the machines. After then, I fixed the target for making these components. By using manpower accurately and removing useless work. Also, implementing 5S, Kaizen activities to increase the production and reduce the downtime. Question 4. Difference between production and manufacturing? Manufacturing means a process of converting raw material into finished products by using various processes on machine. Production means a process of converting inputs into outputs. Question 5. How did you improve the quality during production? I improved the quality during production by using following steps. By checking the components after every half hour. By checking the accuracy of tools and quality of material used for manufacturing the products. By giving run charts to the workers so they can check as they are going to be within tolerance. Run chart provides them continuous production with quality. By using good quality of coolant, cutting fluid for manufacturing process. By giving good communication channel between the workers and me. Question 6. How do you maintain discipline on the floor as the production engineer? I have made a good communication channel between the workers and me. I give the daily production target to the workers which make them busy to complete their work. I give my full attention on shop floor and we take strict action if any worker starts gossiping during working hours. Question 7. How do you plan various shifts and daily production? We get the weekly, monthly basis schedule from our customers. After getting the same schedule from PPC department, I do plan for various shifts and report to workers by displaying on the notice board after the approval of the production manager. I provide daily target sheets to the workers and also check the sufficient raw material, tools, coolant and unrepaired machine on the workshop. Question 8. How do you install the new machines and layout preparation as a production or process engineer? Firstly, we make the process plan of the components and according to it, I draw the layout of the machines and make sure that machines should be in arrangement according to the next processes. Then, I also check to maintain the distance between the machines. We install the machines for maximum time saving and provide proper safety to the workers. Question 9. How did you reduce the cycle time of machines to increase the production? I reduced the cycle time of machines by using following methods. Replace old machines with new one or giving servicing to the old machines on time. By using a good quality of tools, coolant and raw material. With the selection of active workers and impart training to them. By making the time study report of all components those are running on machines. Question 10. How many workers are working under you? I am working as production engineer or supervisor. Around 40-50 workers are reporting to me in my line. We have 2/3 GIT and that those are getting training under me. Question 11. What is difference between lean manufacturing and JIT, just in time? Lean manufacturing, it takes the concept of JIT and re-examines it from the customer point of view. Anything that is produced should add something of valuable to the customer's requirement. For example, if you are making stereo system for a luxury car, you will think from the customer point of view like sound quality, durability, space occupancy, loud or medium sound, etc. JIT, just in time, this methodology is designed to ensure that a product or part would arrive just in time to be used. This technique saves the cost behind the unused inventory, and eliminating the need of piling up inventory. Question 12. What is the least count of vernier caliper and micrometer? A. Vernier caliper least count. LCE equals, value of one main scale division. Total number of vernier scale divisions. LCE equals 0.1 mm equals, 1 mm, 10 divisions. LC of vernier caliper equals 0.1 mm. B. Micrometer are also called screw gauge. Least count of micrometer. Least count of micrometer equals 0.01 mm. Question 13. What is QMS? QMS stands for Quality Management System. It documents all necessary information about company's design and operational controls, including issue reporting, monitoring, continuous improvement and training, to make sure that company delivers continuous product. Question 14. What is batch production? Batch production is a manufacturing technique, where components or goods are produced in groups and not in a continuous stream. This methodology is mainly used when similar items are produced together. Question 15. What is the challenge in manufacturing products? Main challenge in manufacturing is to develop better production processes, ensure the right material and component supplies at the least cost, decrease production time, eliminate wastage and maintain quality in the final product. Question 16. What is GMP? GMP is a good manufacturing practice and is recognized worldwide for the control and management of manufacturing and quality control testing of foods, medical devices and pharmaceutical products. Question 17. What are the softwares which can be useful in manufacturing unit? In manufacturing unit, software that can be useful are manufacturing ERP and material management. Some of the companies that provide the manufacturing software solution are SAP, Oracle ERP system, etc. Question 18. What is Kanban? Kanban is scheduling system which advises manufacturers about how much to produce, what to produce and when to produce. In this system, inventory is refilled only when visual cues like an empty bin or cart is seen. Question 19. What is 5S? 5S describes how to describe a workspace for efficiency and effectiveness by identifying and storing the items. 1S sorting, to eliminate all the unnecessary tools, parts and instructions. 2S setting in order, everything should be in its place and the place for each item should be clearly labeled. 3S sweeping, keep the workplace tidy and organized. 4S standardizing, workplace and tools should be consistent and standardized. 5S self-discipline, maintain the self-discipline on the floor for effective efficiency. Question 20. What is rake angle? Rake angle is the angle between the face of the cutting tool, rake face, and the normal to the cutting direction. Question 21. What type of machines and tools is used in automobile industry? For conventional machines such as lathe, milling machine, drilling machine, grinders company use the twist drill bit with Morse taper shank drills of HSS, high-speed steel, material. For CNC machines like CNC lathe, VMC, company use the bits of carbide material. Bits are made from the high-carbon steel, HSS, carbide. Carbide is used for very hard material. HSS drills in sizes such as M2, M35, M42 grades. Carbide tip tools as per ISO standards are in K10, K20, P10, P20, P30 and P40. Question 22. What is heat treatment and why is it done? Heat treatment can be defined as a combination of processes or operations in which the heating and cooling of a metal or alloy is done in order to obtain desirable characteristics without changing the compositions. Some of the motives or purpose of heat treatment are as follows. O. In order to improve the hardness of metals. O. For the softening of the metal. O. In order to improve the machinability of the metal. O. To change the grain size. O. To provide better resistance to heat, corrosion, wear etc. Heat treatment is generally performed in the following ways. Normalizing. O. Annealing. O. Spheroidizing. O. Hardening. O. Tempering. O. Surface or case hardening. Question 23. Explain the term BOM. BOM stands for Bill of Materials. It is a list of item or parts that make up a product assembly. For example, a lawnmower requires a handle assembly, metal deck assembly, a control assembly, motor and blade assembly. Question 24. What is DCR? DCR stands for Document Change Request, a change request which addresses about a problem with a document, SOP, standard operating procedure, or specification and propose a change to fix it. Question 25. Explain the difference between pipe and a tube. A pipe is measured based on its inner diameter, ID, whereas a tube is measured based on the outer diameter, OD. Other than the dimensions, there is no major difference between the two. Automobile engineering interview questions. Question 1. Explain the reason that why big tires are used in rear of vehicles. Answer. Large tires provide larger surface area touching the ground, thus providing the more pulling power. Basically, tractors have larger rear tires because tractors don't have to operate at higher speeds, thus getting the same ground speed with larger tires. Moreover, gear ratios don't have to be as high as BC of the tires. Question 2. What is kingpin offset? State some of its application. Answer. The kingpin offset is the part, basically called as pivot, used in the steering of the vehicles. This offset helps in rotating of the steering and thus it's very useful in steering mechanism of the cars. Applications. This is also used to measure scrub radius with the help of geometric parameters of wheel plane above and below ground level. It provides directional stability to the vehicles when it is combined with the caster. Question 3. Explain the basic difference between BS2 and BS3 engine. Answer. The basic difference of BS2 and BS3 engines is the presence of catalytic converter. Catalytic converter is present in BS3 engine, which helps in reducing the formation of HC and CO. While in BS2 engine, no catalytic converter is present, which forms HC and CO. Thus in BS3 engine there is no emission of harmful CO and HC. The full form of BS is Behrant stage, which is a standard of emission in India. Question 4. What is an injector pressure in heavy vehicles? Why it is used? Answer. Injector pressure is the pressure at which the fuel can be injected into the vehicle. In heavy vehicles, injector pressure is 220 kg/cm square. It is used to set up the standard fuel injection in the vehicles. With the help of injector pressure we can calculate the amount of fuel needed, through the following formula. A state. Horsepower x BSFC, no. Of injectors x duty cycle equals pound per hour per injector. cc equals pound per hour x 10.5. Question 5. In a tractor, how the hydrostatic propulsion systems work? Answer. This system is based on Pascal's law. In a tractor the pressure is same, so the force given by the liquid to the surrounding is equal to the pressure x area. Thus, obeying the Pascal's law, hydrostatic propulsion system is designed. Similarly, small piston feels small force and the large piston feels larger area. Question 6. Explain the reason that why the tires are always black in color. Is this phenomena related to the heat conduction? Answer. Tires' color is black due to the proportion of carbon mixed in it during the vulcanization of the rubber, to make the tire shear resistant. Without vulcanization tires won't be able to bear the friction, heat and stress of the road. Thus carbon is responsible for giving tires the prominent black color. Adding of carbon prevents tires from rapidly deteriorating because when ozone combines with the ultraviolet light from the sun, it attacks the polymer of the tire. Question 7. What is BHP? How can you measure BHP? Answer. BHP is brake horsepower. It reflects the powerfulness of the brakes of the vehicles. BHP stands for how much power will be required to make the engine stop working, that is to stop the rotation of the engine. BHP equals 2 times pi times torque times revolutions, all this divided by 550. Pi is 3.1416 and torque is in pounds-feet, and revolutions are revs per second. Question 8. What will happen if someone adds oil to the fuel of 4-stroke bike engine? Answer. This will result in damaging of the engine faster. Adding oil will lead to the higher wear and tear of the cylinder liner, piston and damage to the piston. It will lead to abnormal combustion and knocking and detonation. Dark smoke and abnormal sounds will be generated by the engine. One should not mix oil with the fuel of 4-stroke engine. Question 9. What do you understand by cc of engine? Answer. The meaning of cc is cubic centimeters. It represents the total volume of the engine cylinder. This reflects that the engines with more cc can generate more powers than the other engines. Cc can also be related as inversely proportional to the fuel consumption. Question 10. How air conditioners work in cars? Answer. Air conditioners are based on the principles of evaporation and condensation and then compression and expansion. The hot air of the car is removed by the process of evaporation and then the condensation of the evaporated air takes place, which is then further compressed by the compressor and then finally expanded to us in the form of cold breeze. Somehow, air conditioning reduces the average of the car, as the energy is required to remove the hot air and then compression and expansion. Question 11. If we use gasoline in diesel engine, what will happen? Answer. Adding gasoline to the diesel engine may blast off the engine. Compression ratio of the petrol engine is 6:10 and diesel engine is 15:22. Thus gasoline will get very highly compressed and might result in blast off engine. Question 12. What is octane number and cetane number? Answer. Octane number can be defined as the percentage, by volume, of isooctane in the mixture of isooctane and H-heptane. It is the measure of rating of SI engine. While cetane number can be defined as the percentage, by volume, of N-cetane in the mixture of N-cetane and alpha-methylnaphthalene. It is the measure of rating of C engine. Question 13. Explain the significance of governor in automobiles. Answer. Governor is an important component of automobile engine. It is used to regulate the main speed of engine during the variations in loads. With the variations in the load, fuel supply has to be maintained. This task is performed by the governor. In the case of high load on the engine, speed decreases, hence fuel supply has to be increased, and similarly when load decreases then the fuel supply has to be decreased. Question 14. What is C? Mention the importance of C to the automobile domain. Answer. C stands for Society of Automotive Engineers. This society is responsible for developing the standards for the engineering of powered vehicles of all kind. The vehicles may include car, boat, truck and even aircraft. C has developed standards for ground vehicles and aerospace vehicles. C also encourages students of engineering, technology, science and maths disciplines. This society has been publishing technical information since 1906. Question 15. What is DTSI? Why this technology is used in motorbikes? Answer. DTSI stands for Digital Twin Spark Ignition. This is used to get better combustion in the combustion chamber. In this technique, double spark plugs are used to obtain better combustion of fuel in cylinder head. Through this technique, fuel is ignited properly. Moreover, it provides better efficiency and it is economical in fuel consumption. Question 16. How does the thermostat work? Answer. When the engine is too cold, the thermostat closes the main valve, thus stopping the flow to the radiator. When the engine is too hot, it opens the main valve for normal circulation through the radiator. Question 17. What is a pressure cap in the radiator? Answer. It is a seal in the radiator that maintains the selected pressure in the cooling system when the engine is hot. Question 18. Why does a compression engine use high-octane fuel? Answer. The property of a fuel, which describes how fuel will or will not self-ignite, is called the octane number or just octane. Engines with low compression ratios can use fuels with lower octane number, but high compression engines must use high octane fuels to avoid self-ignition and knock. Question 19. What is the use of hydrogen in automobile? Answer. Low emissions. Essentially no CO or HC in the exhaust as there is no carbon in the fuel. Most exhaust would be H2O and N2 fuel availability. There are a number of different ways of making hydrogen, including electrolysis of water. Question 20. What is panhard rod or track bar? Answer. A panhard rod is a bar or tube running from one side of the axle to the frame on the other side of the vehicle. It helps the leaf spring in keeping the axle centered under the body during turning a corner. Question 21. What is pitching in the suspension system? Answer. Pitching is a rocking action about a transverse axis through the vehicle, parallel to the ground. The front suspension moves out of phase with the rear, experiencing the rocking effect due to pitching. Question 22. What is the use of natural gas in automobiles? Answer. High octane number makes it very good S.I engine fuel. Low engine emissions. Less aldehydes than with methanol. Question 23. What is panhard rod or track bar? Answer. A panhard rod is a bar or tube running from one side of the axle to the frame on the other side of the vehicle. It helps the leaf spring in keeping the axle centered under the body during turning a corner. Question 24. What is clutch drag? Answer. When the clutch is not disengaging fully and provides some difficulty in changing the gears, then this defect is called clutch drag. Question 25. What is back compressor in engines? Answer. Back compression means the compression capability of the engine. An diesel engine can compress at the ratio of 14:1 to as high as 25:1. Thus the higher compression leads to better efficiency of the engine. Thick black smoke is emitted when the engine's compression is reduced, which leads to the deformed dead gasket lead into crankcase. Strength of materials interview questions. Question 1. Define compressive stress and compressive strain. The stress induced in a body, when subjected to two equal and opposite pushes, as a result of which there is a decrease in length, is known as compressive stress. The ratio of increase in length to the original length is known as compressive strain. Question 2. Define shear stress and shear strain. The stress induced in a body, when subjected to two equal and opposite forces, which are acting tangentially across the resisting section, as a result of which the body tends to shear off across the section, is known as shear stress, and corresponding strain is known as shear strain. Question 3. Define Poisson's ratio. The ratio of lateral strain to the linear strain is a constant for a given material, when the material is stressed within the elastic limit. This ratio is Poisson's ratio, and it is generally denoted by 1/m or micro. Poisson's ratio 1/m equals micro equals linear strain/lateral strain. Question 4. What is state Hooke's law? Hooke's law is stated as when a material is loaded within elastic limit, the stress is proportional to the strain produced by stress, or stress/strain equals constant. This constant is termed as modulus of elasticity. Question 5. Define stress and strain. Stress, the force of resistance per unit area, offered by a body against deformation, is known as stress. Mathematically, stress is written as F equals P/A, where F equals stress, P equals external force or load, A equals cross-sectional area. Unit of stress, stress is represented in N/m2. Strain, the ratio of change in dimension to the original dimension when subjected to an external load, is termed as strain and is denoted by E. It has no unit. Question 6. Define modulus of elasticity. The ratio of tensile stress or compressive stress to the corresponding strain is known as modulus of elasticity or Young's modulus and is denoted by E. Stress, strain equals E. Question 7. Define bulk modulus. When a body is subjected to an uniform direct stress in all the three mutually perpendicular directions, the ratio of the direct stress to the corresponding volumetric strain is found to be a constant, is called as the bulk modulus of the material and is denoted by K. K equals direct stress, volumetric strain equals PA, dV, V. Question 8. Define strength of material. The strength of a material is its ability to withstand an applied load without failure or plastic deformation. The field of strength of materials deals with forces and deformations that result from their acting on a material. Question 9. What is stability? The stability may be defined as an ability of a material to withstand high load without deformation. Question 10. Define factor of safety. It is defined as the of ultimate stress to the working stress or permissible stress. Factor of safety equals ultimate stress, permissible stress. Question 11. Give example for gradually applied load and suddenly applied load. Example for gradually applied load. When we lower a body with the help of a crane, the body first touches the platform on which it is to be placed. On further releasing the chain, the platform goes on loading till it is fully loaded by the body. This is the case of gradually applied load. Question 12. Example for suddenly applied load. When we lower a body with the help of a crane, the body is first of all just above the platform on which it is to be placed. If the chain breaks at once at this moment, the whole load of the body begins to act on the platform. This is the case of suddenly applied load. Question 13. What is bending moment? When a moment is applied to bend an element, a bending moment exists in the element. Question 14. What are the points in the stress-strain curve for steel? Proportional limit, elastic limit or yield point, ultimate stress and stress at failure. Question 15. Define torque. Torque is defined as a force applied to an object that results in rotational motion. Question 16. What properties are needed to be considered for application calling for following requirements? I. Rigidity. Strength of no plastic deformation under static load. I. Strength to withstand overload without fracture. I. Reliability, elastic modulus and yield strength. 2. Strength, for no plastic deformation under static loading, yield point. 3. Strength, overload, toughness and impact resistance. 4. Wear resistance, hardness. V. Reliability and safety, endurance limit and yield. Question 17. Specific strength of materials is very high when they are in fiber size but lower when they are in bar form. Why? The crystal structure has ordered, repeating arrangement of atoms. Fibers are liable to maintain this and thus have high specific strength. As for size increases, the condition of ordered and repeating arrangements can't be guaranteed because of several types of defects and dislocations, and thus the specific strength gets lower. Question 18. Distinguish between creep and fatigue. Creep is low and progressive deformation of a material with time under a constant stress at high temperature applications. Fatigue is the reduced tendency of material to offer resistance to applied stress under repeated or fluctuating loading condition. Question 19. What does the area under the stress-strain curve represent? Energy required to cause failure. Question 20. Hydrogen cannot be removed easily from molten steel. What harm hydrogen has on property of steel? Excessive hydrogen results in the formation of small fissures often described as hairline cracks or flakes in the steel. Large forgings in alloy steel are particularly sensitive to this phenomenon. Question 21. What is the difference between isotropic material and homogeneous material? In homogeneous material the composition is same throughout and in isotropic material the elastic constants are same in all directions. Question 22. What is the difference between proof resilience and modulus of resilience? Proof resilience is the maximum strain energy that can be stored in the material without permanent deformation. Modulus of resilience is the maximum strain energy stored in a material per unit volume. Question 23. What is the difference between column and strut? Both column and strut carry compressive load. Column is always vertical but strut as member of structure could carry axial compressive load in any direction. Question 24. What is the difference between basic hole and basic shaft? A basic hole is one whose lower deviation is 0 and in case of basic shaft the upper deviation is 0. Question 25. Explain the difference between the points of inflection and contraflexure. At points of inflection in a loaded beam the bending moment is 0 and at points of contraflexure in loaded beam the bending moment changes sign from increasing to decreasing. Machine design interview questions. Question 1. Define factor of safety. The ratio between maximum stresses to working stress is known as factor of safety. Factor of safety equals maximum stress/working stress. Question 2. Define fatigue. When a material is subjected to repeated stress, it fails at stresses below the yield point stress. Such type of failure of the material is called fatigue. Question 3. Define endurance limit. Endurance limit is the maximum value of completely reversed stress that the standard specimen can sustain an infinite number, 106, of cycles without failure. Question 4. What is impact load? If the time of load application is less than 1/3 of the lowest natural period of vibration of the part, it is called an impact load. Question 5. What are the various phases of design process? The various phases of design process are: recognition of need. 1. Definition of problem. 2. Synthesis. 3. Analysis and optimization. 4. Evaluation. 5. Presentation. Question 6. What are the different types of loads that can act on machine components? Different loads on machine components are: steady load, variable load, shock load, impact load. Question 7. What are the types of variable stresses? Types of variable stresses are: completely reversed or cyclic stresses, fluctuating stresses, repeated stresses. Question 8. What are the types of fracture? The two types of fracture are: ductile fracture, brittle fracture. Question 9. Distinguish between brittle fracture and ductile fracture. In brittle fracture, crack growth is up to a small depth of the material. In ductile fracture, large amount of plastic deformation is present to a higher depth. Question 10. Define stress concentration and stress concentration factor. Stress concentration is the increase in local stresses at points of rapid change in cross-section or discontinuities. Stress concentration factor is the ratio of maximum stress at critical section to the nominal stress. Question 11. Explain size factor in endurance strength. Size factor is used to consider the effect of the size on endurance strength. A large size object will have more defects compared to a small one. So, endurance strength is reduced. If K is the size factor, then actual endurance strength equals theoretical endurance limit xk. Question 12. What are various theories of failure? The failure theories are: maximum principal stress theory, maximum shear stress theory, maximum principal strain theory. Question 13. What is the use of Goodman and Soderberg diagrams? They are used to solve the problems of variable stresses. Question 14. Give some methods of reducing stress concentration. Some of the methods are: avoiding sharp corners, providing fillets, use of multiple holes instead of single hole, undercutting the shoulder parts. Question 15. Explain notch sensitivity. State the relation between stress concentration factor and notch sensitivity. Notch sensitivity, Q, is the degree to which the theoretical effect of stress concentration is actually reached. The relation is Kf equals 1 plus Q, Kt1. Question 16. What are the factors that affect notch sensitivity? The factors affecting notch sensitivity are: O material, O notch radius, O size of component, O type of loading, O grain structure. Question 17. What is an SN curve? SN curve has fatigue stress on y-axis and number of loading cycles in x-axis. It is used to find the fatigue stress value corresponding to a given number of cycles. Question 18. What is curved beam? In curved beam, the neutral axis does not coincide with the centroidal axis. Question 19. What do you mean by allowance in limits and fits? Allowance in limits and fits refers to maximum clearance between shaft and hole. Question 20. Define machine design. Machine design is defined as the use of imagination, scientific principles and engineering techniques to create a machine or structure economically, in order to satisfy the requirements of a customer. Question 21. Why a sleeve is fitted on a ball bearing? To prevent relative axial movement between the shaft and the bearing. Question 22. What is the constant factor in case of R10 series of preferred numbers? 1.25. Question 23. On what basis a transmission shaft subjected to bending loads must be designed? Maximum shear stress theory. Question 24. In designing a clutch plate, what assumption is made? Uniform wear condition is assumed because it leads to safer design. Question 25. The critical speed of rotating shaft depends upon what? Mass and stiffness. Fluid mechanics interview questions. Question 1. Which pump is more efficient, centrifugal pump or reciprocating pump? Centrifugal pump. Because flow rate is higher compared to reciprocating pump. Flow is smooth and it requires less space to install. Lower initial cost and lower maintenance cost. Question 2. How cavitation can be eliminated in a pump? Cavitation means bubbles are forming in the liquid. To avoid cavitation, we have to increase the pump size to 1 or 2 inch. To increase the pressure of the suction head, or decrease the pump speed. Question 3. Why centrifugal pump is not called as a positive displacement type of pump? The centrifugal has varying flow depending on pressure or head, whereas the positive displacement pump has more or less constant flow regardless of pressure. Likewise, viscosity is constant for positive displacement pump, where centrifugal pump have up and down value because the higher viscosity liquids fill the clearances of the pump, causing a higher volumetric efficiency. When there is a viscosity change in supply, there is also greater loss in the system. This means change in pump flow affected by the pressure change. One more example is, positive displacement pump has more or less constant efficiency, where centrifugal pump has varying efficiency rate. Question 4. Why the centrifugal pump is called high discharge pump? Centrifugal pump is a kinetic device. The centrifugal pump uses the centrifugal force to push out the fluid. So the liquid entering the pump receives kinetic energy from the rotating impeller. The centrifugal action of the impeller accelerates the liquid to a high velocity, transferring mechanical, rotational, energy to the liquid. So it discharges the liquid in high rate. It is given in the following formulae. Centrifugal force F equals mv2/r, where m mass, v velocity, r radius. Question 5. Why cavitation will occur in centrifugal pumps and not in displacement pumps? The formation of cavities, or bubbles, is induced by flow separation, or non-uniform flow velocities, inside a pump casing. In centrifugal pumps, the eye of the pump impeller is smaller than the flow area of pipe. This decrease in flow area of pump results in an increase in flow rate. So pressure drop happened between pump suction and the vanes of the impeller. Here air bubbles or cavities are formed because of liquid vapor due to increase in temperature in impeller. This air bubbles are transmitted to pump, which forms cavitation. Question 6. What is a radial flow turbine? In a radial flow turbine, steam flows outward from the shaft to the casing. The unit is usually a reaction unit, having both fixed and moving blades. Question 7. What are 4 types of turbine seals? Carbon rings fitted in segments around the shaft and held together by garter or retainer springs. Labyrinth mated with shaft serrations or shaft seal strips. Water seals, where a shaft runner acts as a pump to create a ring of water around the shaft. Use only treated water to avoid shaft pitting. Stuffing box, using woven or soft packing rings that are compressed with a gland to prevent leakage along the shaft. Question 8. What are 2 types of clearance in a turbine? Radial, clearance at the tips of the rotor and casing. Axial, the fore and aft clearance, at the sides of the rotor and the casing. Question 9. What is the function of a thrust bearing? Thrust bearings keep the rotor in its correct axial position. Question 10. What is a stage in a steam turbine? In an impulse turbine, the stage is a set of moving blades behind the nozzle. In a reaction turbine, each row of blades is called a stage. A single Curtis stage may consist of 2 or more rows of moving blades. Question 11. What is a diaphragm? Partitions between pressure stages in a turbine's casing are called diaphragms. They hold the vane-shaped nozzles and seals between the stages. Usually labyrinth-type seals are used. On a half of the diaphragm is fitted into the top of the casing, the other half into the bottom. Question 12. What are the two basic types of steam turbines? Impulse type. Reaction type. Question 13. What are topping and superposed turbines? Topping and superposed turbines are high-pressure, non-condensing units that can be added to an older, moderate-pressure plant. Topping turbines receive high-pressure steam from new high-pressure boilers. The exhaust steam of the new turbine has the same pressure as the old boilers and is used to supply the old turbines. Question 14. What is a combination thrust and radial bearing? This unit has the ends of the Babbitt bearing extended radically over the end of the shell. Collars on the rotor face these thrust pads, and the journal is supported in the bearing between the thrust collars. Question 15. What is cavitation? Cavitation is the formation of vapor cavities, air bubbles, in a liquid. Question 16. What is positive displacement pump? Positive displacement pumps are those that operate by forcing a fixed volume of fluid from the inlet pressure section of the pump into the discharge zone of the pump. Question 17. What is kinematic viscosity? The kinematic viscosity is the ratio of absolute viscosity to the density of the liquid. Question 18. Differentiate between the uniform flow and non-uniform flow. Uniform flow. The flow is defined as uniform flow when in the flow field the velocity and other hydrodynamic parameters do not change from point to point at any instant of time. Non-uniform flow, when the velocity and other hydrodynamic parameters changes from one point to another, the flow is thus defined uniform flow. Question 19. What is the difference between the unsteady uniform flow and steady uniform flow? Unsteady uniform flow changes with time. Steady uniform flow does not change with time. Question 20. What is boundary layer? Boundary layer is the fluid layer in the neighborhood of a solid boundary where the effects of fluid friction are predominant. Question 21. On what account the boundary layer exists? Boundary layer fluid flow exists on account of fluid density. Question 22. Explain the difference between laminar flow and turbulent flow. In laminar flow the fluid particles move along smooth, regular paths which can be predicted in well advance. Turbulent flow is characterized by random and erratic movements of fluid particles resulting in formation of eddies. For flow to be laminar in a pipe, the Reynolds number is less than 2000, and for flow to be turbulent it is greater than 4000. Question 23. What is stagnation point and stagnation pressure? A stagnation point is one at which velocity is zero. Stagnation pressure is the sum of static pressure and dynamic pressure. Question 24. Under what condition the thickness of thermal boundary layer and hydrodynamic boundary layer is same? When Prandtl number is equal to unity. Question 25. Define Froude number. It is the square root of ratio of inertial force to gravity force. Thermodynamics interview questions. Question 1. State the third law of thermodynamics. Give its limitations and importance. The third law of thermodynamics states that the entropy of a perfect crystal of each element and a compound is zero at absolute zero. Limitations. If any disorder like impurity or imperfection is found in a substance, then the entropy of such crystal is non-zero at 0 Kelvin. For example, the entropy of pure carbon dioxide and nitric oxide is 0 at 0 K. This shows that there exists disorder in the arrangement of such molecules. This law is applicable only to pure compounds. Thus we can say that this law is not applicable to glass, which is a supercooled liquid. It is also not applicable to amorphous substance and supercooled solutions. Importance. With the help of this law, thermodynamic properties can be calculated and chemical affinity can be measured. This law helps in explaining the behavior of solids at very low temperature. Question 2. Explain the laws of thermodynamics. Zeroth law: if any two systems are in thermal equilibrium with a third system, then they are also in thermal equilibrium with each other. First law of thermodynamics states that energy can neither be created nor be destroyed, but it can only be converted from one form to another. Second law: this law states that all processes in nature tend to occur with an increase in entropy, and the direction of change always lead to the increase in entropy. Third law: this law states that the entropy of a perfect crystal of each element and a compound is zero at absolute zero. Question 3. Explain the following terms: isolated system, open system and closed system, and give example wherever possible. Isolated system: a system that can neither exchange matter nor heat with the surrounding is known as an isolated system. For example, water placed in a vessel that is closed as well as insulated. Open system: a system that can exchange both matter and energy with the surrounding is said to be an open system. For example, a reaction taking place in an open vessel exchanges both energy and matter with the surrounding. Closed system: a system that exchanges only energy and not matter with the surrounding is said to be a closed system. For example, a reaction taking place in a closed metallic vessel. Question 4. Write a short note on Gibbs free energy and derive the equation for the same. This thermodynamic quantity states that the decrease in value during a process is equal to the useful work done by the system. It is denoted by G, and the mathematical equation is G equals H, Ts, where H equals heat content, T equals absolute temperature, S equals entropy of the system. For isothermal process we have G1 equals H1, Ts1 for the initial state. G2 equals H2, Ts2 for final stage. Therefore, G2, G1 equals H2, H1, Ts2, S1. Now, delta G equals G2, G1 is the change in Gibbs free energy. Delta H equals H2, H1 is the change in enthalpy of the system. Delta S equals S2, S1 is the change in entropy of the system. Thus the above equation becomes delta G equals delta H, T delta S is known as Gibbs-Helmholtz equation. Question 5. Why entropy decreases with increase in temperature? ds equals dq/T. Entropy is inversely proportional to the temperature, so, as temp increases, entropy decreases. Question 6. Why different types of sound are produced in different bikes, though they run on C engines? Engine specifications are different in different manufacturers, like as bore diameter, cc, ignition timing. Also the exhaust passage takes more responsible for sound. Question 7. How much watt means 1 horsepower? 746.2 watt. Question 8. When a real gas behaves like ideal gas. A real gas behaves like an ideal gas in low pressure and high temperature conditions. Question 9. What is the significance of entropy? As per the second law of thermodynamics, any heat input to the system, heat engine, cannot be converted completely into useful work. Some energy is lost, and that is called unavailable work. The amount of unavailable work increases as the entropy increase. Question 10. What is the difference between heat transfer and thermodynamics? Heat transfer deals with the energy analysis which in transition and depends on the modes of heat transfer like conduction, convection and radiation, or combination of any modes. Heat transfer deals in non-equilibrium domain and conditions, while thermodynamics deals with study of system at equilibrium and does not depend on how heat transfer is calculated. Question 11. At which temperature thermal radiation can become zero? Not possible. Because thermal radiation becomes only zero at absolute zero temperature, which can never be attained by the third law of thermodynamics. Question 12. Difference between tube and pipe. There always a debate between differentiation of pipe and tube. Pipe is always designated by its inside diameter, ID, because main purpose of pipe is to carry fluid, while the tube is always designated by its outside diameter, odd. Pipe's thickness is sometimes called as schedule and tube's thickness is gauge. As per the tolerance spaces, tubes require higher tolerances as to that of pipe and tubes are more costlier in manufacturing compared to pipe production. Question 13. What is the importance of the thermodynamics in the field of mechanical engineering? All the mechanical engineering systems are studied with the help of thermodynamics. Hence it is very important for the mechanical engineers. Question 14. How many laws of thermodynamics are there? There are 3 laws of the thermodynamics. First law: energy can be neither created nor destroyed. It can only change forms. In any process in an isolated system, the total energy remains the same. Second law: when 2 isolated systems in separate but nearby regions of space, each in thermodynamic equilibrium in itself, but not in equilibrium with each other at first, are at some time allowed to interact, breaking the isolation that separates the 2 systems, and they exchange matter or energy, they will eventually reach a mutual thermodynamic equilibrium. The sum of the entropies of the initial, isolated systems is less than or equal to the entropy of the final exchanging systems. In the process of reaching a new thermodynamic equilibrium, entropy has increased, or at least has not decreased. Third law: as temperature approaches absolute zero, the entropy of a system approaches a minimum. Question 15. State laws of conservation of energy. According to the laws of conservation of energy, energy can neither be created nor be destroyed. It can only be transformed from one form to another. Question 16. Which is the hardest compound known? Diamond. Question 17. What is Hess law? According to the Hess law, the energy transfer is simply independent of the path being followed. If the reactant and the product of the whole process are the same, then same amount of energy will be dissipated or absorbed. Question 18. What is the difference between latent heat and sensible heat? Latent and sensible heat are types of energy released or absorbed in the atmosphere. Latent heat is related to changes in phase between liquids, gases, and solids. Sensible heat is related to changes in temperature of a gas or object with no change in phase. Question 19. Why entropy change for a reversible adiabatic process is 0? Because there is no heat transfer in this process. Question 20. How many joules is 1 BTU? 1 BTU is equal to 1055.056 joules. Question 21. What is PS? PS is for Stark, the German unit for horsepower. Question 22. What are 3 methods of heat transfer? 3 methods of heat transfer are conduction, convection and radiation. 1. Conduction, the transfer of energy by collisions between the atoms and molecules in a material. 2. Convection, transfers heat when particles move between objects or areas that differ in temperature. 3. Radiation, the transfer of energy by waves. Question 23. What is annealing? It is a process of heating a material above the recrystallization temperature and cooling after a specific time interval. This increases the hardness and strength of the material. Question 24. What is ductile brittle transition temperature? It is the temperature below which the tendency of a material to fracture increases rather than forming. Below this temperature the material loses its ductility. It is also called nil ductility temperature. Question 25. Enthalpy and entropy are functions of one single parameter. Which is that? Temperature. Material science interview questions. 1. Define material science. The scientific study of the properties and applications of materials of construction or manufacture, such as ceramics, metals, polymers, and composites. Question 2. What are orthotropic materials? Orthotropic materials are a special class of isotropic materials which can be described by giving their properties in three perpendicular directions. X, wood, composite. Question 3. A plain carbon steel has Brunel hardness number, BHN, of 180. What are the values of RC, VHN and ultimate strength? RC equals BHN/10 equals 18, VHN equals 180. Ultimate strength equals 3.48 times BHN equals 620 megapascals. Question 4. Explain the effects of alloying chromium and nickel in stainless steel. The addition of nickel and chromium increases the tensile strength and increase in resistance to corrosion takes place. Question 5. Mention two types of dislocations. Dislocation refers to a break in the continuity of the lattice. In an edge dislocation, one plane of atoms gets squeezed out. In screw dislocation, the lattice atoms move from their regular ideal positions. Question 6. What are the principal constituents of brass? Principal constituents of brass are copper and zinc. Question 7. What is Curie point? Curie point is the temperature at which ferromagnetic materials can no longer be magnetized by outside forces. Question 8. What is the percentage of carbon in cast iron? 2.5%. Question 9. Which element is added in steel to increase resistance to corrosion? Chromium. Question 10. Which elements increase the corrosion resistance of steel? Chromium and nickel. Question 11. Why is it that the maximum value which the residual stress can reach is the elastic limit of the material? A stress more than the elastic limit, with no external force to oppose it, will relieve itself by plastic deformation until it reaches the value of the yield stress. Question 12. Why fatigue strength decreases as size of a part increases beyond around 10 mm? The perfection of material conditions is possible at lower sizes, and as size increases, it is not possible to attain a uniform structure of the material. Question 13. While normal carburizing and nitriding surface treatments increase fatigue strength, excessive treatment may decrease the fatigue strength. Why? Normal carburizes, nitriding treatments increases volume due to phase transformation at the surface and introduce residual compressive surface stress and thus increases fatigue strength. By excessive treatment, the high compressive stresses are introduced, but these are balanced by high internal elastic stresses of equal value, and the surface fatigue cracks may develop in the regions of the high tensile stress and lead to early fatigue failure. Question 14. List at least two factors that promote the transition from ductile to brittle fracture. The manner of loading and the rate of loading promote the transition from ductile to brittle fracture. A machine member may have ductile failure under static loading but may fail in brittle fashion when the load is fluctuating. Similarly, a material may evidence ductile failure under tensile loading at ordinary testing speed, but if the load is applied at a high velocity then failure may be brittle. Question 15. Which theories of failure are used for A. Ductile materials, B. Brittle materials? For ductile materials, theories of failure used are maximum shear stress theory and maximum energy of distortion theory. For brittle materials, the theory of maximum principal stress and maximum strain are used. Question 16. What is the common element between the brass and bronze metal alloys? Copper. Question 17. What does the alloy designation FG250 indicate? Field Goal 250 alloy designation indicates gray cast iron with a tensile strength of 250 megapascals. Question 18. Define ceramic. Ceramic is a solid formed by the combination of metallic and non-metallic elements. Question 19. Give one example of metal classified as per structure as PCC, FCC, HCP and CCP. Examples of PCC, FCC, HCP and CCP structures. BCC, body-centered cubic, structure, molybdenum. FCC, face-centered cubic, structure, aluminum. HCP, hexagonal close-packed, structure, zinc. CCP, cubic close-packing, structure, copper. Question 20. What is the name of solid solution of carbon in alpha iron and delta iron? Ferrite and austenite respectively. Question 21. Explain the difference between perlite and cementite. Perlite is a eutectoid mixture of ferrite and cementite. Cementite is a chemical compound of iron and carbon. Question 22. Give one example each of the following proportion of materials: dimensional, physical, technological and mechanical. Roughness, enthalpy, toughness and hardness respectively. Question 23. For which parts the Wall factor and Lewis factor is used? Wall factor and Lewis factor is used for springs and gears respectively. Question 24. How oxygen gas can be removed from steel during melting? What are fully killed steel? Oxygen gas can be removed from steel during melting by adding elements such as manganese, silicon or aluminium which, because of their high affinity for oxygen, react with it to form non-metallic oxides such as manganese oxide, silicon oxide and aluminium oxide, which rise into the slag. Steels in which has most of their dissolved oxygen removed are called fully killed steels. Question 25. What is a lot rope? In what forms of cubic pattern iron exists? Some elements exist in more than one crystalline form. Each crystalline form is known as allotrope of the element. Iron exists in two crystalline forms of cubic pattern, namely, body-centered cubic, BCC, and face-centered cubic, FCC.